Good evening, everybody. The November 22nd, 2022 Hibbing Public Utilities Commission meeting is called to order. All commissioners are present with the exception of Commissioner Garrity. Do we have any adds or deletes?
Thank you, Chair Hart. If I could, I'd like to add item 6G for approve a small coal supply agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Will I add item number under financials and risk management as 6G. Next will be approval of the minutes of the October 25th, 2022 commission meeting. What will be the wish of the commission?
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Babich to approve the minutes of the October 25th, 2022 commission meeting. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 4 is citizens forum. We haven't been presented with one. We'll move on to number 5, the consent agenda. Item 5A, approve invoices greater than $10,000, approve the bills and ACH transfers dated October 22nd, October 22 to November 18, 2022. Item 5B, approve the payroll paid and overtime report for the November 3rd and November 17th, 2022 pay date. Item 5C, approve contribution in the amount of $1,000 to the Hibbing Historical Society for Centennial and related annual holiday ornament. Item 5D, approve results of the 2021 Consumer Confidence Hibbing Drinking Water Report. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there support? We have a motion by Commissioner Andrea, support by Commissioner Babich to approve consent agenda items A through D. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next will be financials and risk management. Item 6A, review report on the October 2022 financials. Mr. Peterson, do you have anything to add?
No, Chair Hart, other than that, I just, these are preliminary financials pending Baker Tilly's review of our accounting for 2022. Ms. Ryers is unable to make tonight's meeting, but the updated financials through October are presented before you here. They do not include reductions to the P&L for capitalized labor, which I expect to be just under $2 million.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. We'll move on to item 6B, approve the Hibbing Public Utilities 2023 capital budget and 5-year capital forecast.
Commissioners, in front of you, if I could, Chair.
No, go ahead.
Sorry to jump right in. Before you is the table from the working session on November 15th. That's the one-pager that shows the 5-year capital forecast. This is the first 5-year capital plan I believe the Public Utilities has had in the very near history. There's a lot of dollars on there. There's lots of things that will change also as we refine our scope. But in there, especially for 2023, you will see the amounts that we discussed on last working session last Tuesday for the water treatment plant in particular, as well as the Hibbing Renewable Energy Center. So there is quite a bit of expenditure, but this is all capital items and investments in efficiencies for the future, which will allow us to maintain the lowest rates on the Iron Range with the most reliable service. So we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
I guess I got one.
Go ahead, Mr. Babich.
You know, in the working session, we were talking about the hydrants.
Yes.
And, you know, when I'm looking at it, I see nothing going towards those. So I'm just curious what the plan is with them.
That's a really good question, Commissioner Babich. If I could share, I've just been speaking with the city administrator about this and the needing to align the city engineer and our engineering team and our staff from the water utility to discuss what are we going to do about these hydrants. And we plan to meet with them in the next 2 weeks. I believe there's a meeting on December 8th prior to the next commission meeting, and I would like to have an update at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion to approve the capital budget?
I'll make that motion.
Support. We have motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Andrea to approve the Hibbing Public Utilities 2023 capital budget and 5-year capital forecast. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Approved, motion carried. Item 6C, approve Bolton and Mank not to exceed $1,445,000 for water treatment plant engineering. There'll be 2 projects. One will be the existing water treatment plant upgrades, and the other project is Cary Valley Water Treatment Center, a new treatment plant. Brian?
Okay, thank you, Commission. Good evening. So you see the proposal in front of you does include both those facilities, and there's a rundown in here of the tasks that have been accomplished to hand, and then the scope of work in the project. So on page 1, there's just a quick recap of some of the preliminary engineering items for each facility. I can run through those quickly. So the Cary Valley Water Treatment Plant, we've gotten through site selection, site survey, geotechnical evaluation on that site. We've done treatment plant tours with staff, and then at last week's working session, we discussed the gravity filtration option and concrete filters. So that would be the basis of the current design for the Cary Valley plant. And then the South Water Treatment Plant improvements, we've completed the site survey, geotechnical evaluation, existing facility evaluation and inspections, preliminary design of the reclaim tank, and then some preliminary plan sheets. So that is the progress to date on both those projects. So what is before you now is taking those projects the rest of the way through design, the final design, and then basically up to construction. So there's several tasks laid out in here which I can step through. Item 1 on page 2, this task would involve utilizing the CMAR process. And what I'll state to the commission is there are different methods to deliver this, and so if the commission is interested in different methods, we can surely have that discussion. But what this is written around is the CMAR method. So for developing that CMAR, the first thing would be a request for qualifications. So that would go out to potential contractors. And then through that process, we'd work with you to answer those questions. Typically, there's an interview process and then eventually selection of that CMAR. So that would be really the first phase in this. The items 2 and 3 are just final design of the facilities, and those items don't really change a whole lot whether we are talking the construction manager at risk or a typical bidding process. So the major tasks there as we go through, item 2 is specifically for the existing facility improvements. So under those, I would just like to highlight the major work items that are included in that design. So we have addition of the reclaim tank and associated equipment, electrical controls improvements for the entire facility, including a generator addition, filter valve replacements, decommissioning of the existing seepage basins, existing building improvements, roofing, doors, some of those age-related items, chemical feed system improvements, addition of a reservoir bypass, site improvements for the reclaim tank, and then this does have construction of a new well for well number 8, and I know that was part of the discussion last week, that item can be up for further discussion on whether that's rehab or new well. So I'll maybe pause there and see if there's any questions or comments on the existing facility scope before I continue. Okay. So item 3 then is specifically for the Cary Valley Water Treatment Plant design, and again, I'll just go through the major items here to highlight. So on the bottom of page 2, starting with the light colored bullet points there, modifications to the existing Cary Valley well. So the existing well is designed to pump to the tower. When a treatment plant is added, that is going to change the pressure on the pump. That's going to require some modifications to that pump, so that will need to be part of the project. We have site piping to and from the new facility, so getting raw water main, finished water main, and then sanitary onto the treatment plant site, and then back to the distribution and collection system. And then the treatment facility itself, 1,000 gallon per minute water treatment facility with the following major components. aeration, concrete detention tank, and concrete filters, a finished water clear well of approximately 150,000 gallons. We did talk about potential expansion of the facility. That would be included in the design, is how does this facility accommodate future expansion? So that would be part of this process as well. The concrete reclaim tank and associated equipment, all necessary chemical feed systems, all necessary electrical and control systems, and then employee office and laboratory space. So that's what would all be included in the Cary Valley treatment plant. You'll see a number of other bullet items here of standard things we need to work through, including funding assistance, environmental review processes. Both of these projects would be funded by the Public Facilities Authority. And so there's going to be environmental review processes required with that, and funding documentation and that is all part of the scope as well. And then also in here, I specifically had it stated out some of these design review meetings with the CMAR. If the commission wishes to use the CMAR, that would be part of the process. If not, those review meetings would still happen with staff. So any questions on the Cary Valley Water Treatment Plant? Maybe next, if I could turn to the schedule and the back 2 pages that were enclosed with the letter. So the first one for the existing treatment facilities, if the commission desires to use the CMAR process, that'd be something we'd be looking to initiate soon to get that process started. And so you can see here on the schedule, if we could publish an RFQ for the CMAR process in December, that would probably align the commission to make that selection in January. And then that design process can continue through February, March. You can see that an important date in there, submittal of 60% plans to Department of Health around March. That would position the project to go into bidding. So that's an important step in there. And then ultimately initiating construction with the 2023 spring construction season. So if that's the desired schedule and to utilize the CMAR process, that process is gonna need to move forward soon to keep that project schedule in line. And then construction schedule itself, looking at maybe 18 months, and with the current delivery chain issues, some of that may come into question too as we get into the finals and start talking with contractors and seeing exactly what the delivery times are come the project. So, questions or comments on that schedule? Yes.
Will you have the permits before you go out for pricing on the project?
The permits?
Will you have the permits in place before you go out for quotes on the project?
They can go both ways with the Department of Health. Sometimes we get their review back before it goes out for bid, sometimes we get it shortly after. But usually there's a lot of communication between us and them before the formal approval. And so we'll actually engage them sooner in the process so they know what's going on. So if there's any major items, we typically would know that up front and have that kind of buttoned up before the actual approval. And with the CMAR process, I did talk to the Department of Health to see exactly when they want a review set, because depending how that process goes, construction could start really tight to the 90% plan set. And I talked to Department of Health when they had done other projects. They said if they can get about a 60% review set, that would work with their schedule. And then if something comes later, like a more detailed plumbing set, they could review that smaller piece later. So that was the direct feedback I had from Department of Health. So, does that answer the question? Yep. Okay. The last page would be the Cary Valley Treatment Facility schedule. So this one is expanded out a bit more. The existing treatment facility, obviously there's less work on that project with the design because of it's just the improvements versus a complete new facility. But here, what I've done with this is assume that the CMAR would be the same one for this project that was selected for the rehab project. And that could be up to the commission if you'd want to select one and then kind of worked with them on each project separately, or if you wish to go through two different processes. But either way, the project could be delivered. And you can see the green bars on here represent the bulk of the design phase, going from January up through next fall. And the biggest probably piece of this is available funding for this project. And so without a bonding bill this year, it's anticipated the next bonding bill would come next spring, and the PFA then would get funded in fall. So there will not be any new PFA funds until fall. So I think the overall schedule for this project, before it goes into construction, would be to see where that funding sits, and then initiate construction in fall of '23, and then completion would be all the way out in July of 2026. And so even initiating construction in 2023, realistically, it's really spring of '24, but you might have a contractor on board before that to start some of the purchasing and shop drawing phase to get equipment ordered, but likely no actual construction would start till the spring of 2024. So those schedules are kind of laid out based on approval now to start the final design. So if there's any changes in when we start, that would just kind of impact the schedule accordingly. So, any questions on the schedule?
I just have
Mr.
one,
Bayless?
yeah, just one general question for Randy. Have you looked more into the CMAR process at all to see if there's any hiccups for us?
Counselor Bayless, members of the commission, I looked into it a little bit more. My understanding is per the same article I think I shared with you, I believe that you can use the CMAR process for the purposes of this particular project, like municipalities could use this. There has to be some effort to make sure you're still picking out a responsible, not necessarily the lowest responsible bidder, but the criteria that you use to select that contractor, that has to be kind of buttoned up and follow their procedures and processes. So that's where we'd have to work with Brian and make sure that and I think he's done this before, but make sure we have the criteria correct. So you could use the CMAR process. It's making sure that we aren't going to get challenged later for how we select that group.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So then going back to page 4, the bottom of page 4, excuse me, it's page 3. With the project fee, as was mentioned, the estimated cost for the engineering of both projects combined there is $1,445,000. Now that's just an hourly estimate, and the commission would only get invoiced for actual hours spent on the project. And so some of that's going to depend on, selecting a good CMAR, if that's the route going, and we would anticipate that with a good CMAR, hopefully there are cost savings on the actual hours spent when it comes to working through that process. So that does represent about 8,000 hours or more of engineering time for both these projects, spread across 25 different staff. And so that will include all the disciplines for structural, architectural, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, the geotechnical work. So everything is covered under that. That's been stated in here. This, again, would take you up to the point of starting construction, and then when construction starts, we'd have discussions about construction engineering services to implement that project and what you guys would like to see for that. Typically, that's somewhere between 7 to 10% of the actual construction cost, but we don't set that now because scopes can change, contractors can change, schedules can change. There's a lot of things that influence that. So I guess with that, I'll leave it for any questions.
I don't have any other than Chair Hart. I'd just like to reiterate, I do look forward, and I thank Brian for his kind of collaboration in helping us decide the right approach to move forward, and the discovery of this CMAR process and the fact that it's been used in several other water treatment plant operations throughout the state as a way of minimizing friction between the contractor engineering team and the owner operator of the plant. It's a good step in the right direction to not only do the right project for the future, but also improve our processes, how we do bids, how we work with contractors or engineers. And, you know, a little teasing, I will say that I hope that this number is a lot less than $1.4 million. But obviously we want to make sure we have a very good and well-engineered and project for the future of Hibbing that will minimize our dirty water calls.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Thanks.
Okay, what would be the wish of the commission?
I'll make the motion to go ahead and move forward with the engineering costs for Bolton and Mink.
There's support? We have a motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Andrew to move forward with Bolton Bank in an amount not to exceed $1,445,000 for engineering on the existing water treatment plant and the new Cary Valley Water Treatment Center. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Move to item 6D, approve the power plant budget update. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, before you is the regular power plant budget tracker update that we report regularly throughout the summer once we started the outage and the subsequent work that was done throughout the power plant. If you recall, we started in May and started with cleaning out the whole wood supply system and upgrading all the belts and all the rollers and all the process up to the wood barn. And then in there, we've also made significant upgrades to the elevator conveyor and belt number 4, all the way through completely redoing the condenser, the tubes on the top of boiler 4, and then most recently went through the electrostatic precip tuning and transformer repair. And now we're culminating all of the summer work with putting turbine 5 back in service, which we expect within the next couple of weeks. We budgeted a total amount of $2.8 million, and with the items that I have requested in this update, in addition to the RMS request for approval in item 6E, all of those included in, we are at a budget of just under $2.8 million, which was our budget at $2.7 million for the project to date. And this includes the addition of about $69,000 for additional insulation along the fly ash conveyor, which will allow a safe and quiet operation of the fly ash conveyor on boiler 4 throughout the winter, and some additional scaffolding for that job. So with those additions, and then also the PLC upgrades for turbine 5 included in item 6E, we are at $2,712,000 for the project. I will also mention, I met with our insurance company, Factory Mutual, FM Global, last week. They've been increasingly impressed with the turnaround of operations at the Hibbing Renewable Energy Center, and I wanted to thank all the staff who've been working hard on that for the last 2 years to make sure that's happened. They relayed to me that Hibbing Public Utilities risks, when they started kind of putting us on notice, we were at the lowest or the highest risk level for their organization. And with these changes, we are now up at the 60th percentile. So that's a huge, huge turnaround in a short amount of time. And I think even they are surprised at how quickly that has happened. They also talked a lot about ES&G, which we talked about back in April. They're very interested in knowing what our ESG plans are. And I said, it's funny you should mention that, because we were the first utility in Minnesota that has approved a restorative development plan. And so they were interested in that, as well as including resiliency. And what they've talked about is their underwriting risk evolves with what's happening with the extreme weather events and whatever else, the polar vortexes, is they are going to start grading utilities on resiliency as well. And so that is something that I think Hibbing Public Utilities will be uniquely positioned to do well when we get there. So with that in mind, I'll conclude my report unless there are any questions.
Clarification, Mr. Peterson, so you're looking for approval of the insulation quotation
Yes,
and also approval of the scaffolding under 6D?
that's correct. Yes.
Anything else?
That's it.
That's it, okay. And we got an updated quote on the insulation blanket?
Yes, that was attached behind item 6D, and the first one is this logo with United Refractories. For change order 3. And then the second quotation from Northern Industrial Insulation for $69,500. And you'll note this is their second quote. They gave us the first quote of, was it, Paul, $75,500? We got a reduction of about $6,000 for using our own JLG, right?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
correct. We just had them resubmit it using our own equipment because we have one there that's been inspected and is fully operational, so they dropped it down to the 69,000 level on that.
Okay. Okay, I'd make a motion to approve the insulation quotation in the amount of $69,500 to Northern Industrial Insulation, and I would make a motion to, and approve the fly ash conveyor scaffolding to United Refractories in the amount of $9,850. Do I have support?
Support.
Okay. Motion by Chair Hart, support by Commissioner Bayless to approve the quotations as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next on the agenda will be item 6E, approve RMS in the amount of $207,300 for upgrade to turbine generator 5 overspeed trip protection and turbine control system upgrades. Mr. Peterson?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Hart. This item is to approve the controls and the trip protection inside the turbine. So we have a control system in the power plant called Delta V. That is not what we're talking about. This is the actual inside of the turbine itself. There is an automatic trip protection as well as the smarts of the turbine to connect to our systems. Our current version of the is out of date and no longer serviceable, so we're upgrading this. We're using Woodward. And I apologize, Commissioners, we don't have the actual quote in here, but it is from the Woodward, the local Woodward rep, who furnishes the current HMI or control provider. This is the next version of that. What's also interesting is that with this additional HMI, we'll have improved operation performance as well as the eventual starting of work using our turbines in auto. Right now, we never run turbines automatic. Everything's very manual. We need this to get into the future and start operating our equipment effectively.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Are there any questions? We have a motion to approve. Okay, support. We have a motion by Commissioner Babbitt, support by Commissioner Andrea, to approve the upgrade to the turbine generator 5 overspeed trip control protection and turbine control system upgrades in the amount of $207,300 to RMS. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Approved. Motion carried. Next will be item 6F, approve PPC Industries in the amount of $547,770. Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, as we discussed in the capital budget planning discussion last week, One of the projects for the Hibbing Renewable Energy Center is upgrading the bug zapper, also known as the electrostatic precipitator. We estimated that that project would be around $2 million. We've since found that the cost of rebuilding it is substantially lower than replacing new. Now, this isn't the complete cost, but this is the biggest component of this, and this is for the original manufacturer who designed and engineered this, who has the sole source requirements for our bidding rules, as well as the proprietary plans and design for the whole control system and operation of this. They will take the whole electrostatic precipitator apart, will remove it from the top of the power plant, put it on the ground, rebuild it, and put it back up in place. And so this is about at least a third of the cost of a full rebuild from scratch. So it is a very highly cost-effective way to get the best operations in the HREC. So with that, I'd recommend approval of PPC in the amount stated for a rebuild of the electrostatic precipitator. Also note, it's important to get these approved now so we can begin ordering parts for a spring turnaround. We're expecting a May outage when we can take boiler 4 down. We want to have everything ready and on site for that to happen.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. I got a question for you. The schedule of payment, 50% upon receipt of order, 25% 4 weeks from receipt of order, 25% at completion of shipment of equipment.
Let me get back to them, because I also don't agree with that.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm not going to pay it until it's done and works.
Well, I mean, I can understand some equipment won't get ordered unless you give a down payment, but
Right.
we're not paying for stuff that's not done, obviously. So, thank you. Okay, what would be the wish of the commission?
I would make the motion to approve contingent of agreeable schedule of payment.
Yep. Is there support? Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Andrea to approve the upgrades to PPC Industries in the amount of $547,770. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 7A.
Thank you, Chair Hart. If I could, I'd like to request the Commission's approval to hire Elliot Dixon, here present, as the Customer and Programs Communications Specialist at the Hibbing Public Utilities. I'm sorry. Thank you. Moving on to item 6G, which I added at the beginning of the meeting. I'd like to request the commission approve this add of a small coal supply agreement with Midwest Energy Resources. As you're aware, Midwest Energy Resources has been the coal provider of the public utilities for some time. We are looking for alternative long-term suppliers, but for our compliance testing as well as for boiler tuning, which we would like to do in the month of December, we would like to have 1,000 tons of coal available for us to use. This is above my ability to approve, and so it would require commission approval. The price per ton is $75.82. It is higher than what the commission has paid the last time around for coal, higher by the amount of $5 a ton more. It's not ridiculously higher. The difference between then and now is the coal cost has gone, the actual commodity cost has gone down, but the transportation costs have gone up, and we are still continuing to work with BNSF for direct shipment of a full train load at some point in the future, but that is not something that will be around anytime very soon to rely for this winter. So with this small supply agreement, we would have enough to get us through a very a severe weather event, as well as do our requisite boiler tuning at the power plant.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. What will be the wish of the commission?
Motion approved.
Is there support? We got a motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Babbage to approve the purchase of coal. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Approved, motion carried. Now we can go to 7A.
Okay, thank you. I really want to hire Elliot. And Dan. Commissioners, before you is a request to hire Elliot Dixon. Elliot came to us through a temporary contractor arrangement with their staffing, and he's been a tremendous help with a number of things. And as you're aware, the commission approved the customer and programs communication specialist role. Elliot's communication abilities as well as stay organized. He's had been very proficient in keeping the wheels of positive progress moving through the offices of the public utilities. So I look forward to, if the commission is willing, bringing Elliot on board full-time, starting as soon as the commission approves.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. I'll make a motion to approve the hiring of Elliot. Is there support? We have a motion by Chair Hara, support by Commissioner Andrea, to approve the hiring of Elliot Dixon as Customer and Programs Communication Specialist. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Welcome to the PUC, Elliot. Again. Next item will be 7B, approve hiring of Dan Edwards as HREC Maintenance Coordinator.
Thank you, Chair Hart. Also before you is a request to hire our HREC Maintenance Coordinator job description, and that we advertised last week. And for this, I'd like to recommend Dan Edwards for the role of the Maintenance Coordinator. Mr. Edwards has over 13 years of experience in holding various maintenance and safety certifications, where he supervised over 34 welders at his current role. He also has a vast knowledge of all the safety standards and is eagerly looking forward to putting our preventative maintenance system in place so we can continue to go up the risk rankings of our insurer and have everything in a nice organized system to make sure all of our preventive maintenance is done on time and with a lot of progressive documentation, as well as best-in-class services. So with that, Mr. Edwards would be reporting to Paul Plumbon, and he would be supervising both the warehouse and the fuel handlers initially, as well as additional folks over time as he gets his feet wet, so to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. What will be the wish of the commission?
I'll make the motion to hire Dan Edwards.
Is there support? We got a motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Babich, to approve hiring Dan Edwards for the role of Hibbing Renewable Energy Center Maintenance Coordinator job. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Approved, motion carried. Losing it here. 7. Item 7C, review and approve comments to be filed with the MPUC regarding Minnesota Power's fuel and purchase energy rider relating to $5.5 million of lost revenue. Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Hart. I guess I just wanted to point out that there was a number greater than $4 million, but less than $6 million that was confidential at the time of negotiations. And as a result, it's no longer confidential because it was made public in Minnesota Power's rate case. The amount of lost revenue or revenue that Hibbing Public Utilities will no longer be giving to Minnesota Power is $5.5 million. And that's fully public. It's fully disclosed here in front of the folks that have followed these meetings for a while. I talked with Mike Parola from Minnesota Power today. Minnesota Power has just wanted to discuss a little bit more the tone and tenor of our comments. Particularly, they didn't think that HPUC does not oppose the petition. Was as nice as they'd want it to be, and I respect that. And we're not. What I just say is that we really appreciate the opportunity to work with Minnesota Power to benefit their ratepayers as well as ours by use of our assets. And this is a very good contract, and we look forward to upholding all of our bargains. I did speak with Commissioner Garrity today, He's had some health issues, I believe he had surgery and pneumonia recently that's been keeping him from coming to these, and he very much looks forward to, working with Minnesota Power as best as he's able. And part of that includes, making sure that, they live up to their side of the bargain, which would include, honoring the new contract that we have, which I have no doubt that they will. He also looks forward to, them being making HPU whole on the vegetation management and other things that I don't know if we've received payment for that invoice yet, but something that we would be, looking to do prior to, saying anything too nice. But anyway, we do really respect our new relationship with Minnesota Power and look forward to finalizing these comments.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. I would make a motion to approve the comments we have on our docket here as presented. Do I have support? We have a motion by Chair Hart, support by Commissioner Andrea, to approve the comments of the Hibbing Public Utilities Commission as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item will be item 7D, reiterate Hibbing Public Utilities policies and Minnesota law.
Thank you, Chair Hart, and I'll just keep this brief. As you know, Hibbing Public Utilities is a governmental entity. Any employee or former employee is not authorized to take any property of the public utilities. It's a theft of public funds and it will be prosecuted accordingly. Because we have a very casual atmosphere around certain places and, we might have some misunderstandings of what that means. Certainly all property is public property and it needs to be respected as such, and there's no entitlements from former service employees to any assets of the Hibbing Public Utilities other than, obviously a good, being a good customer of Hibbing Public Utilities and expecting good service in return. So I just wanted to reiterate that for everybody, that there's no access to any of HPU's inventory or tools or shop or anything like that for anybody who's not doing public utility business. And that is in compliance with not only our own policies, but also state of Minnesota law.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. So we'll move on to old or new business. Is there any old or new business any of the commissioners have or the general manager? Nothing? Okay. Last item will be a motion to adjourn. Support. We have a motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Babbage to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody.